just one day after Mr. Bernie Sanders has sued the DNC for withholding his data on the NGPVAN database of voter information, which I did a video about, and I'll put a link to it in the upper right hand corner. Click on the little circle with the eye, and you'll be able to go to it. But he had some major stones to sue the DNC the day before the debate on Saturday, December 19th, 2015. And the timing of the debate was something crazy. I mean, it was Saturday night at 8 o'clock. I mean, what better way to get the American people to watch your debate than to have it on in basically the middle of the night? It might as well have been 2 o'clock in the morning because you had so much going on. I mean, I almost didn't watch the debate, and I wanted to actually watch the debate to do a video on it, but I almost didn't watch it because it was a UFC fight on. I was like, man, this is a hard choice. You got college basketball, you got college football, bowl games, you got a free UFC event on Fox. It was a lot going on. And I think they did it on purpose because they don't really want people to see Hillary Clinton. The actual debate, you had Mr. George Stephanopoulos, former and/or current Clinton operative, a person who used to work for Bill Clinton. You had him opening the actual debate. I guess he was like the MC. You had another guy. I'm not sure who that was. It might have been Jake Tapper. I'm not sure who that was. If you know who that was doing the actual moderating, leave me some comments in the comment section below. Now, before we get into the actual debate, this debate was much different than the GOP debate. It was a lot less chatter online. People didn't know about it. I think that was intentional to hide Hillary Clinton, but to have the debate so nobody can say, oh, they're not having debates. Like, yes, they're having debates, but who's watching it? I mean, you having it where you're going to have the least amount of viewers possible. You need to put that in the middle of the week, Wednesday, 8 o'clock prime time, when people are going to be at home after work and they can watch it and you can have the most eyes on it. The opening credits, that was also different than the GOP. The GOP had a lot of glitz and glamour, singing the national anthem, sound like sports broadcasters, but this one was much different. They only had Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton in the opening edited video sequence. It didn't even have Martin O'Malley. It's like he didn't even exist. It was crazy. But, O'Malley, and I understand why I didn't have O'Malley in the piece, because O'Malley has no chance. In the beginning part of the debate, O'Malley tried to be very verbose and over talking, kind of like how Ted Cruz was in the RNC debate earlier this week. But what it really ended up being was just him sounding like he was just being desperate, trying to force himself on people, screaming and just like a desperate plea for somebody to give him some money. He plugged his website talking about, donate to my campaign. It was kind of sad to see it, but I understand because he knows at this point he doesn't have a chance. So it's like you might as well milk whatever you can out of the remaining time you have on stage. Now, they got immediately, I think the first question I was asked actually in the debate, which I give them credit for doing and not trying to obfuscate the problem and or hide away from it. They got straight to the question, which was, what's going on with the situation when you're suing the DNC. And again, I made a video about it and he pretty much said the exact same thing I did. But what was weird about it was how he ended up apologizing to Hillary. And why would you apologize to Hillary, Mr. Bernie Sanders? Hillary is the corrupt one here. Hillary is the one that has all these ties to these people that work for the company and or run the company that is accusing you of stealing information and blocks you out. Miss Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the head of the DNC, was also working for Hillary Clinton in 2008. I think she was the head or the co-head of her campaign committee in 2008. Somebody who may be related to her actually works for the same company called NGPVAN. So really, you have more leverage on Hillary than she has on you. So why are you apologizing to her? Maybe this is politics. Maybe they're just going to surprise everybody and run as a joint campaign. I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but that was kind of a strange thing to see. So Hillary says that people aren't really interested in it. And I was like, well, look, I'm interested in it. I'm very interested in seeing who's stealing data, who's corrupt, your relationship with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, your relationship with all the people that I mentioned in the video before. I want to know about that. And I want to know why Bernie Sanders has been cut off from his own data. I want to know all of that. That's very important. Especially if I was to vote for one of these people to be the president, I want to know basic things like that. And it seems like it's always something with Hillary. There's always a problem. There's always an issue. It's never just smooth sailing. That's just kind of how it works with Hillary Clinton. So they get more into the debate, and they're talking about foreign policy, and they bring up the question about Donald Trump banning Muslims and stuff like that. And Hillary's talking about trying to attack the problem where it exists. She's talking about going to North Africa and South Asia. It's like, what are you talking about? You need to go to where it is if you're going to do anything. South Asia. I mean, how many terrorist groups do you know in Malaysia or Indonesia? I mean, there is some Islamic violence, but it's not nothing like what it is in the Middle East. And it's not anything like what's over here at home. So I'm not really sure what she was talking about. It seems like she's more of a neocon than some of the GOP people who are neocons. And Rand Paul actually said that Marco Rubio and Hillary Clinton are the same person. They're both neocons. And I tend to believe him based upon what was said in the debate. Now, Bernie, I give him credit. He was saying that we shouldn't be going to war. But on the opposite end of that, he was saying that the Muslims should lead the effort on the ground. Now, here's my question. When you say Muslims, what do you mean? Do you mean the people that Putin is fighting against, the so-called moderate opposition? I'm using air quotes when I say that, because when you say moderate opposition, what you really mean is less violent terrorists. You don't mean truly moderate people. And then they get into the gun debate, and Hillary Clinton says, and I'm paraphrasing here, guns don't make Americans safer. And then she asked a question, arming people to do what? It's like, and then the crowd cheered, and it's like, come on, arming people to defend themselves. If a gun doesn't make me safer, then what does it do? Like, okay, if all the criminals have guns, you can say that you're going to ban guns and you're going to make guns illegal. But look, on one side of your mouth, you say that the drug war doesn't work and that maybe it should be some legalization or something going on. On the opposite end of that, you say that gun restrictions do work. It doesn't make any sense, because in a gun situation, you have criminals that are still able to get the guns. So you're not going to be able to stop people from having guns. The only ones you affect by gun restrictions are common citizens. This is basic common sense, but to the average Democrat voter, they don't think that way. Many of the Democrat voters either are generally in one of two situations. One, and when I say Democrat voters, I'm talking about as it relates to the gun issue. If they are against gun ownership, they either live in a very nice area that does not have crime, or they live in a very bad area that has a lot of crime, but somehow they think that having less guns in the hands of people that need them will make them safer, which is not the case. They're misinformed people. Now, Bernie Sanders on the gun issue, he says that you should be able to own guns, but he wants to have restriction through regulation, which is basically the same thing Hillary was saying. You know, and you're talking out again. You're talking out of one side of your mouth, and then on the other side of your mouth, you're saying that, okay, you should have guns, but at the same time, you shouldn't have certain guns that we don't want you to have in the government. You know, and Martin O'Malley, you need to be ashamed of yourself, sir. You're talking about how well you did in Baltimore, Maryland, and in Maryland, because now for a little bit of backstory, Martin O'Malley was the mayor of Baltimore in the late 90s, and then he eventually became the governor. Now, look at what's going on in Baltimore right now. I mean, is this your legacy, sir? You have 330 murders in Baltimore last time I checked, which is, a few days ago. You're talking about an all-time high record homicide rate and nearly a high murder total, which was only eclipsed in a time where you had 300,000 more people in the city. So when you're talking about how well you did in Baltimore, how well you did in Maryland, you're not telling the truth. And the only reason why Maryland has so much money and is a rich state is because it is basically the bedroom of Washington, D.C., where all the tax money of the nation goes. And I illustrate how Washington has so much money from the political sector in my video about Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton and the whole NGP-VAN scandal. How everything is interconnected. It's not because Maryland is some type of juggernaut economically. It's because of all of the political money that goes through there. And you can look at Baltimore, Maryland as a shining example of why that's the case. If Maryland is such a prosperous state, then why is Baltimore in such poor condition? Bernie Sanders yelled the whole debate. Now, I thought Bernie Sanders was just a loud person in general, but there were times where he was just screaming. He was just yelling. And it's like, man, if you had on your headphones, RP to your ears, because he was yelling the whole debate. And he yelled at Martin O'Malley. And it was like when Martin O'Malley would try to challenge either Bernie Sanders or Hillary, it's like they would both attack him and kind of like talk to him like in a condescending way. It was very interesting to see. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if you had a Bernie Sanders Hillary Clinton ticket, because I find it crazy to think that. And by the way, when Bernie Sanders actually apologized to Hillary, she didn't really accept it. She just said, "I thank you for that comment." And typical lawyer talk, when you don't actually say certain things that are expected to be said because it'll be used against you later. That's a lawyer talking right there. You see, I caught stuff like that. If somebody, and I think the actual moderator asked Hillary Clinton if she accepted it, and she said, "Oh, it was nice." I thank him for that. You're not accepting it. They get into talking more about the economy. Bernie Sanders, he gives a basic rundown of the Democrat ideology about having $15 an hour minimum wage. No one who works over 40 hours should go and live in poverty. The basic talking points, which are all proven false. Any self-respecting economist will tell you that these programs don't work. When you have high minimum wage, you end up with less jobs because less companies are able to afford the money to be able to pay people in mass. The only ones who will be able to survive something like that will be Walmart or another big behemoth, because they have enough money to weather the storm. They can lose millions of dollars a day and not completely go away. But a small business that only has a few employees, they can't really lose more than $10,000 without going under, right? Now, they talk about collecting data. They talk about basically like NSA practices, and then they keyed in on encryption, because the whole thing about encryption is some terrorists were able to communicate in forms of communication that were not able to be tracked because they're encrypted. And Hillary Clinton was asked, and she made a crazy statement talking about the back door is the wrong door. Maybe it's just me. I took that kind of the wrong way, but that was an interesting remark that she said. I saw the crowd. It was very interesting. It was kind of an older crowd. It wasn't really like, I'm not really sure. It was kind of like older and white. And now I'm not trying to be the racist here. I'm just trying to make a point briefly. Democrat Party always has this brand of being young and inclusive and diverse. But what I saw on stage was 3 white people, 2 very old ones, and a crowd full of the same kind of people. Now, I know they're in New Hampshire, but at the same time, it's like, okay, what are we doing? Are we culturally and racially and ethnically diverse, or are we not? I just wanted to point out the hypocrisy in their stance on that. Now, then they get talking about what to do in Syria. They're talking about building a coalition, and here we go with the coalition. It's like, I think that word might have been mentioned the most out of basic common words that are said in conversation. Coalition was right up there. Nobody ever says who's going to be in the coalition. No one ever says what the coalition will do. They just say, well, we're going to build a coalition and we're going to fight. It's like, come on. Hillary Clinton said she's going to support the Sunnis. Does she know that ISIS are Sunni? And then you're talking about supporting moderate opposition. Well, what is moderate opposition? To me, I think it's a dog whistle. When you say moderate opposition, all I hear is less violent terrorists who will become more violent terrorists when you put arms in their hands. What you should be doing is having a hands-off approach and letting them handle their own business. And if anybody want to come over here, then you deal with it. Don't fight other nations' wars or try to have regime change. Now, to Bernie Sanders' credit, he said that regime change is not good. And I think Martin O'Malley said the same thing. But here we go with a double talk. You say that regime change is not good, but then you say that there should be some type of plan in place to remove Assad. I was like, okay, so you don't want to go in there and violently bomb Syria to enact regime change, but at the same time, you want to have them basically surrender and let him and make him step down. Well, look, either you want regime change or you don't. Don't beat around the bush and say, well, you don't want to bomb Syria. Either you want regime change or you don't. It's just that simple. Either leave the democratically elected president Bashar Al-Assad alone, or you take him out. You don't ride the fence and play games like that. So you're talking about you want to have a no-fly zone in Syria. Now, how are you going to institute that? How are you going to enforce it? Because you know Russia is there. And like I said before in another video, if you have a no-fly zone and Russia violates it, what you going to do? If you don't do anything, then your no-fly zone is useless. If you do something, that's going to be World War III. And Russia is nuclear. So is China. So is Iran. And they're going to be all on your head at the same time. So that's not a good idea for you to do. They went to a break, and then they came back for a moment before the break was actually over. Like, they went to a break and went to a commercial, and they came back from commercial before the actual break was over. The candidates were able to leave the stage. I'm thinking, okay, they must have probably went to the bathroom. Then when they officially came back, when the debate was back on, you had Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders on stage, but in the center of the stage where Hillary Clinton was, which is interesting placement, by the way, she wasn't there. Then all of a sudden she just popped up after they began talking. It's like, come on, Hillary. Like, you need to just tighten up. You can't be running late. You know, I think that she's just kind of like laissez-faire, whatever. It's Saturday night, nobody's seeing it. Who cares? I can take all day in the bathroom. I can go in there, talk on the phone, text, whatever. And I put a picture right here of the actual stage with her missing. I can say that I've never seen that on TV in a debate for the presidency before in my life. So when they actually came back and started talking again, Hillary says that she wants to institute programs and give money to be able to help small business. But at the same time, you want to raise minimum wage. Again, that doesn't work. Hillary Clinton also said that the reason why the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, has had problems with the pricing and stuff like that is because of glitches. I'm using air quotes again. And what glitches cause premiums to quadruple, quintuple? Like, what are the glitches there? Like, glitches, what do you mean? Do you mean that the program was just flawed from the beginning? She says that the GOP wants to repeal Obamacare and not fix it. Now, here's my question. How are you going to fix it, Ms. Clinton? What are you going to do to fix it? Bernie Sanders says he wants to nationalize health care. And Hillary kind of opposed it, but at the same time, she wants to still have Obamacare, which in effect is kind of like nationalizing healthcare because of the way that the federal government controls it. So you want to have healthcare, but at the same time, you want to have nationalized healthcare, but you don't want to have it all the way nationalized to where the states control it. You want to control it at the federal level. So it's really the same thing. Then they get talking about, they bring up the whole Black Lives Matter thing. And they just give you talking points. They don't really go into any kind of in-depth thing. They just get the typical Democrat talking points, talking about systemic injustice. But they don't really go deeper than that. Bernie Sanders brings up the whole unarmed African-American victim, which is a lie. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows what the real problem is, except for a few people that don't want to realize the truth. Everyone knows that the problem in the black community is a breakdown of the family and the criminalization of the black male. And when I say criminalization, I don't mean that people on the outside are doing it. I mean people on the inside are doing it. We become criminals. We terrorize people more than other races per capita. And then when we get in trouble for it, we want to blame somebody else. And then you got people like Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton that want to enable it and make it worse. All the while saying they're going to fix it. So that's part of the reason why I'm conservative today, because as I got older, I started to recognize what was going on. You could have some fool that kidnap and rape 20 women, and then some Democrat will come and try to excuse it. You know, you got some fool that like it was a story out here where it was a black male in a vehicle with his girlfriend and a baby in the back seat. The police are approaching him because he's a suspect and some murders and some robberies that went on. When they approach him, he opens fire on the police with his girlfriend beside him and a baby in the back seat. He gets killed. So does she. Unfortunately, she got shot one time as a bystander because she was right next to him in the car. But they both die, and the baby is saved. You had people that were trying to blame the police and say that they shouldn't have done that. When they took the guns that he had and ran them, they found that he had killed not one, but two other black people within the past 2 months in the area. And the gun was also used in a number of shootings where the person didn't die, and robberies, violent home invasions. These are the kind of people that the Democrat Party wants to uphold, and people like Ben Carson, they want to push down. This is why you have so many problems in the black community. It's enabled. So the whole unarmed victim, save that, because I'm not really trying to hear it. And then they bring up another lie, which is the war on drugs. Listen, you say you want to get rid of the war on drugs, and you want to try to blame the war on drugs. Well, look, if you got a dope boy out here selling drugs and committing violence, if you make drugs legal, now he can't sell drugs. So what is he going to do now? Is he going to go get a job at Safeway or UPS? He could have did that before he was selling drugs. So what is he going to do now? A big thing right now going on in Atlanta is a home invasion craze. People going to start stealing, robbing, and doing other things. The drug war ain't the problem. It's the criminality that exists within certain subcultures of the country that's the problem. And if you have legal drugs, how you going to handle the public health issue? They go to the heroin epidemic and say that opiates should be more regulated. So I was like, okay, here you go again. Here you go again with the double talk. You say you want to get rid of the drug war, but you want to have more laws on drugs. You want to regulate drugs more, make it less easy to get. So when you got some type of drug addict that's going to the doctor to get his pills, and all of a sudden now he can't get them, what's he going to do now? And how is he going to be able to get the pills? There's going to be a demand created and a supply met in the street. So what you going to do when someone sells legal drugs illegally? See, you still got to have the drug war because you're going to have more regulation. So you double talking. At a certain point, when you examine Democrat policies, it make no sense. You say you want to have more treatment options. Now, I know people that have been addicted to certain substances and drugs. The only way that somebody's going to go get help is if they want it. The problem with a lot of these dope fiends is not that they cannot get help. It's that they don't want to get help. They like using drugs. That's just pretty much what it is. They asked Hillary Clinton about Libya and how much responsibility that she shares because of the whole Benghazi situation. But she kind of skirted the question, didn't really answer it, and pretty much avoided the question after it was asked numerous times. By the way, did you see Hillary Clinton's outfit? Someone on Twitter said that it resembled a burlap sack, which I thought was hilarious. I just wanted to point that out. And that was pretty much the substance of the debate. That was pretty much all that they had to say. Towards the end, they started talking about people's spouses and what is the role of a first lady or a first gentleman in the case of one Hillary Clinton. By that point, I was done. I pretty much heard all that I needed to hear. In a nutshell, this debate was pretty uneventful, pretty much what I expected from the Democrat Party. And the biggest thing about the debate was the fact that it was held on a Saturday night, tucked in between UFC fights, college basketball, college football, Christmas, people going out and shopping last minute. I think it was unintentionally because the DNC does not want people to really see Hillary. The DNC is in Hillary Clinton's back pocket, in my humble opinion. Too many red flags going off about the DNC and how they are pretty much sponsored by Hillary Clinton. That's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please rate, comment, share, subscribe. Peace.